Okay. Good evening, brethren, and the body of Yahshua the Messiah and the bonds of peace. We'll be doing the aims this evening, along with a prayer and the scripture lesson. The scripture lesson would be 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter. First aim. Our first aim is to help you find and know Yahweh, our Elohim, as he really is and actually exists. Second, to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity in Yahshua the Messiah, without a distinction of race, creed, nationality, sex, caste, or color. Third, to investigate the unexplained spirit law, or so-called law of nature, and powers latent in man. Fourth, to encourage and promote the study of the scriptures, comparative religions, psychology, philosophy, modern and practical and occult science. Fifth, to extirpate current superstition, skepticism, and ignorance. Six, to learn, know, and understand the operation of Yahweh's eternal purpose through the dispensation and ages. Seven, to discern and avoid being deceived by Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons, operating the mystery of iniquity on earth through the dispensations of time. Eighth, to earnestly contend for the common salvation and faith which was once delivered to the sons or children of Yahweh. Ninth, to make known that Yahweh from the beginning ordained there is no other name given among men whereby man must be saved, saving in the name of Yahshua the Messiah. And 10, to inherit eternal life now in the kingdom of Yahshua the Messiah, with the hope of immortal glorification in the new earth state. Our watchword is peace, and our slogan is speak the truth. We have prayer by Sister Miranda Gonzalez, and scripture lesson read by Dr. Vanessa Collins. Scripture lesson will be 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter.
I'd like to say good evening again to the brethren, and may we bow our heart and mind in prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, Yahweh, we are indeed thankful for another opportunity that you have given us, the brethren, to gather together in this manner in thy holy name. We are thankful that you have kept us clothed in our right mind, still with a sincere desire to hear, know, feel your ever presence, and to do those things that are pleasing in thy sight, and to become one with it. We are thankful in this last day and time for your long suffering, your mercy, and your grace to the brethren, to the sons. We're thankful that you have moved our heart to be on this call tonight and to sup of this divine vision and revelation. And we ask that as we gather, that you still and quiet our heart and our mind so that we can hear those things that you have prepared for us, and that we give them the more serious heed in this last day and time. These are our blessings we ask in thy son's name, Yahshua the Messiah. Let's all say hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Good evening. Scripture lesson for this evening is 1 Corinthians 7th chapter. I will be reading from the Holy Name Bible, containing the Holy Name version of the Old and New Testaments, critically compared with ancient authorities in various manuscripts, revised by the late A.B. Trainer, the Scripture Research Association, Incorporated. 1 Corinthians 7th chapter. Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Refuse ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. For I would that all men were even as myself. But every man hath his proper gift of Yahweh, one after this manner, and another after that. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passions. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yahweh. Let not the wise depart from her husband, but, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not Yahweh. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which hath a husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but Yahweh hath called us to peace. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? Or how knowest thou, O man, whether thou shalt save thy wife? But as Yahweh hath distributed to every man, as Joshua hath called everyone, so let him walk. And so ordain I in all the assemblies. Is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised. Circumcision means nothing, and uncircumcision means nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of Yahweh means everything. Let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. Art thou called being a servant? Fret not because of it. But if thou mayest be made free, use it rather. For he that is called in Joshua being a servant is Joshua's free man. Likewise also, he that is called being free is Joshua's servant. Ye are bought with a price. Be not ye the servants of men. Brethren, let every man wherein he is called, therein abide with Yahweh. Now concerning celibacy, I have no commandment of Yahweh, yet I give my judgment as one that hath obtained mercy of Yahweh to be faithful. I suppose, therefore, that this is good for the present necessity. I say that it is good for a man so to be. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. But, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, she hath not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I will spare you. But this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none, and they that weep as though they wept not, and they that rejoice as though they rejoiced not, and they that buy as though they possess not, and they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away. But I would have you without anxiety. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to Yahweh, how he may please Yahweh. But he that is married careth for the things that are of the world, how he may please his wife. There is difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of Yahweh, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit. But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. And this I speak for your own profit, not that I may cast a snare upon you, but for that which is proper, and that ye may attend upon Yahweh without distraction. But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely by remaining unmarried, if he be past the age and need so require, let him do what he will, he sinneth not. Let him marry. Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but hath power over his own will, and hath so decreed in his heart that he will keep his celibacy, doeth well. So then, he that marries doeth well, but he that marries not doeth better. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, and if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, but only in the faith. But she is happier if she so abide after my judgment. And I think that I have the spirit of Yahweh as well as others. 1 Corinthians 7th chapter.
Hallelujah. Thank you very much. Good evening, brethren. Good evening, everybody on Zoom, everybody on YouTube. I thank you guys for coming tonight. This is a special topic, one that has been requested, and you guys have been waiting on this particular topic. What we're going to do the first part of class, we're going to have a couple of different testimonies from different brethren about, their relationship and how Yahweh actually brought them a partner or a mate or a spouse. And then we'll kind of go into breaking down adultery and fornication. So that's kind of how class will be structured for tonight. And so it's going to be kind of like a, not really an interview style, but kind of an interview style. So what I'm going to do to get us started, just to kind of share a couple of different stories, I was going to ask Dr. Welsh, if you and Dr. Janice Welsh, Dr. Terry Welsh and Janice Welsh, if you guys don't mind, if you can give a brief testimony of how I thought your story was so beautiful and needed to be shared, how Yahweh actually brought you guys together. If you want to kind of give that testimony for me or for us tonight.
Yeah. Okay. It was really very, very interesting because I had no intentions of ever finding a husband or being married. I met some brethren in Ohio, of all places, and there was a woman there who knew Terry, and I was from Lansing, and I was visiting the Ohio branch. I think it was Cincinnati or Dayton. It was Dayton, Ohio. And this woman gave me Terry's address because she didn't have his phone number. And she told me to call him or write him when I got back to Flint, which is where I lived at the time. So I wrote him a letter saying, I wanted to be a part of the class. And I was never expecting him to return the letter or anything, but he wrote me back and I called him and found out when they had classes. So when I did go to the Lansing class for the first time, when I walked in the room, I saw Dr. Terry Welsh and our eyes met, and there was something that I can't even explain that happened. Some people call it love at first sight. And I was like, I don't want to be bothered with no man. I just gotten out of a horrible abusive relationship. And so I just kind of went along, and I guess he told me later that he felt the same, but we kind of just went along. And then eventually, which was like about 6 to 9 months later, I think we ended up getting married. Which was not on my list of things to do. And then from there, it's actually been Yahshua that's kept us together. We came together. I came for the teaching. I happened to meet him along the way. And then I can see how Yahweh put us together for Yahweh's purpose, not for ours. So do you have anything? And that's a brief kind of way we met.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty good, thorough overview of what happened. She's absolutely right. There was something that occurred the moment she walked in the door. I remember class was just getting started, and I turned when the door opened, saw her, and I had that flash. I completely rejected that as being important. There's kind of a background story to that. But we focused on the teaching, and we were together. She would come over and actually often stay for the weekend. And we had absolutely no physical contact. And for a long time, there was nothing that was involved with any kind of romantic gestures or anything for quite a while. And then at the point where I would say it was pretty much mutual at the same time, started really feeling that passionate closeness. It was very clear that, there was something more to it than just physical relationship. But we did, I know you'll get into this kind of thing later on, but just an example with us, we both stayed without having any sex until the time that we actually got physically married. Although it was quite clear that Yahweh had literally put us together prior to that, but we still maintained the physical separation from sex with each other until we got married, physically so, or legally so. But Yahweh put us together, and I'm really glad. I kind of said quite often, if you put the two of us together, you make one pretty good person. There's things about that are kind of important. She happens to be, you probably don't see it, she happens to be wearing her U of M sweatshirt. I'm wearing my MSU sweatshirt. And it's kind of been interesting because you can look different on the outside, come from different places, wear different clothing. But what unites you is one spirit. Two souls united by one spirit is a marriage. A piece of paper is not a marriage.
That's right. Very good. If you don't mind, I know you said there's a backstory as to why that flash, you kind of just put that flash in the back of your mind as if it wasn't very important. Do you mind sharing that part?
Well, briefly, I had about 2 years prior to that time. Yeah, about 2 years prior to that time, been on a trip, making rounds of several of the schools with a group of others from our branch school. In the process, we're meeting people along the way at the different schools, and there was a woman that I met and was introduced to me, or we got introduced at one of the classes. And at that moment, when we met and looked at each other, there was a flash, so to speak, that was somewhat similar. And without going into all the details, it really seemed to me as if this was a sign from Yahweh that she and I were supposed to get married. And I even put down some kind of terms and conditions in my mind that would have to take place in order for that sign to seem confirmed as being really correct from Yahweh. And those things seem to happen. Without, again, going into the huge backstory, that was something that really I'll say I just kind of deceived myself about that, or I was wrong in reality, in terms of assuming that that's what Yahweh really wanted and planned, and that would be the wholesome and the right thing. And it was part of the process, I guess, that I needed in order to kind of mature. I was very young, and it's part of the process I needed to mature and grow past that, and really and truly be looking into the Spirit. So anyway, when this similar thing happened with Janice, I realized Yahweh had spared me from being really stupid and jumping into a relationship that would have been disastrous. I mean, could have been absolutely disastrous. And so when that happened with Janice, I pushed it away. But what really was important was not that love at first sight. What was important was the continuing and steady and complete relationship that we had with each other. We were devoted strictly to the teaching. And we spent many, many, many hours, not only in class, but after class, going through the teaching and the scriptures and so forth and so on. And that went on, like she said, it was about 9 months. And then at the point where we really felt like we were going to be married, we were married within 3 months of the first time that we actually started feeling romantic.
Well,
Very good.
Yeah, went on a date. Yeah. From then we had, yeah.
you want to
That's
call
awesome.
it a date?
Well, it's the reason why I asked you about that, because, and you'll see why I asked you to share that part of it, because there's a question that is going to be posed later on, and I think that kind of helps give a segue into that question later on. But yeah, you'll see why I asked you to share that part. I love y'all's story. So thank you guys for that. I'm going to ask another couple to share their story, their testimony briefly. David and Shirley, do you guys mind sharing your story?
No, not at all. Shirley.
No, we don't mind at all. I love to share this story, as a matter of fact. Can y'all hear us okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, we've been married for 38 years, and I've been in class for the total time that we've been married. Well, both of us had. David was in before we married. Yahweh brought us together in a very way that I could not deny once he revealed himself unto me that it was him. I'm told opposite of Janice. She said she wasn't looking for a husband. But as far back, for me, as far back as the age of 16, early age of 16, I thought that was my desire to find love, and my thing was finding love, by finding somebody to love me. And I thought it was in a male that I had to find love. So I spent many years of heartache and disappointment. And during all of those years, I had met David like in 1977, and we had a relationship, but it wasn't like a serious relationship. We became friends. And then after a period of time, after I had gotten just filled up, Yahweh had just wore me out with trying to find love in the wrong places. And I didn't even know Yahweh at this time. Trying to find love in the wrong places. He just wore me out with it. And I finally just asked him at that time, and I called him God, asked God to just take this away from me. I'm through with it. I've had enough. I don't want to keep going through with this. And he actually answered my prayer. The first time in my whole life, is my dealings with God, I could actually know for a fact that he answered my prayer. I mean, he took the desire away from me to even want to be involved with anyone. I just wanted to concentrate on myself. So that him have me in that state of mind, then it just so happened within a few days after that, I ran into David. I had not seen him for like 5 years. And I ran into him on the side street. He was coming out of a house, and I stopped just to say hello. That was my only desire, to say hello to him, because, you know, we were friends. I had not seen him in a long time. Well, Yahweh took it from there. He introduced me to the gospel through David. And from that point on, that Yahweh took it from there. We were married within 6 months after we met again. And we had no doubt, no questions about it. You know, we knew that Yahweh had brought us together. And when you acknowledge what Yahweh showed me in that, when you acknowledge that he brought you together, then you're going to have to, he's going to make it where you have to acknowledge, if it's real with you, you have to acknowledge that he's the only one to keep you together. And after about 5 or 6 years, you know, we started having problems, disagreements. It's like we couldn't agree on anything, you know, argued all the time and things like that. And he didn't have the job he wanted at the time, and just a lot of different scenarios that Yahweh brought into the picture. So David was moved by Yahweh to go to California. So we were separated for about 9 months because I didn't want to go to California. No way, no how. Had 2 children, didn't want to go there. So we were separated for about 9 months, and through it all, you know, Yahweh kept us together, even though, you know, he was gone. I wanted, you know, I got upset about it at first, but Yahweh took care of that. But what Yahweh had to make me see, that I had to look at him and him only. You know, I had to know that he was my husband, that he was the reason he brought me and David together, was to find him. So that part of it is for the separation, that Yahweh made me know why it was that it had to happen that way, because I had to find him for myself, because I didn't stop going to class. I was being tried on the words that I gave all people that was telling me, oh, you just going down to that class just because of David, you know. I said, no, I'm not. So I had to be tried on that. And Yahweh, you know, I stayed in class. I stayed concentrating on him. And I told David finally one day that you just go on and take care of what Yahweh has you doing in California, and I'm fine, don't worry about it. So after about 9 months, he came back, and what Yahweh showed both of us out of that, and he'll tell his part of it, but what he showed us from that point up until this point is that this is not about you. What I got going on, anything you argue about and the disagreements you have, it's not about you. It's for you to see what I'm doing at all times, under all conditions and circumstances. So we have kept that at the forefront of our marriage from that point forward. And that is how we stay together, because we keep Yahweh at the forefront. We don't make it about us. I don't care what it is, good, bad, indifferent. It's not got nothing to do with us. We always look to see what Yahweh is doing, how he's working it. And that's how because the adversary is always there. He's always there. But we have come to know that it's not about us. And we tell any young couple that asks us anything about having problems in their relationship, that's all we got to tell them. You got to find out that it's not about you like that. It's about what Yahweh is doing. And every situation he works. So to sum it up is what he has shown us in our marriage is, if you acknowledge that he brought you together, you have to acknowledge that he's the only one to keep you together. When bad time arises, you have to remember what the Messiah said. What Yahweh has joined together, let no man put asunder. And that is powerful to me, because asunder means apart. And if Yahweh brought it together and you acknowledge that, then no man can put asunder. Now, we're not talking about a man outside of you. We're talking about like that back there with Daniel, where his thoughts troubled him. It wasn't a man that was troubling him. It was his thoughts that was troubling him. So when your thoughts get in the picture that it's about you, then that what causes a separation. And Yahweh said, don't let that happen, to cause a separation what he has brought together. Because if you say that he brought you together, then you let anything come up to cause you to separate, then you were not real with what you said that Yahweh did. So it's Yahweh that puts you together, it's Yahweh that keeps you together. And if you keep that in the forefront, everything will be fine, no matter how bad it seems. So always keep him in the forefront and let him be the leading role, the most important thing in your relationship. And then everything will be fine.
Paul, I got that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just okay, just to couple up with some of that. I'll say that I had been in class before Shirley was. I was over to Dr. Boston's house and he was cutting my hair. And I mentioned to him, I said, well, I'm gonna go out and find me a wife, because all of the brothers who were in class at the time, everybody was married, everybody had their own mate and this kind of thing. And so me looking without, I'm thinking that that's what I got to do also. So a little bit about my past before that point. Yahweh put me out of church. I had a interesting early part of my years from 17 to 20, 21, 25, where I had called myself going to church and trying to be a little deacon, that kind of thing, and had in the church and saw some things in the church that I just couldn't reconcile. I saw the deacons fighting over the money for one thing. Then I saw, not when I say fight, I mean they have an argument, that kind of thing, over the money, that kind of thing. And then I saw where male and female were being intimate in the church, and what I called the church at that time. So Yahweh showed me that. I asked God at that time. I said, look, this just don't. It's not working for me. I need to see the other side. So now the other part of that, if I can tell the story, was that prior to that, I had I was what you call a dog, and I'll just put it that bluntly. I had gotten two young ladies in the neighborhood pregnant, and they wasn't too far apart. But the point about that is that I tell my daughters now that most men are nothing but dogs, and you need to be careful about, and that includes your daddy, that you need to be careful about what you do and how you who you find. So Yahweh was breaking me down what he was doing, and he broke me down to the point where, as I said, I'd ask God. I said, I got to see the other side. I just don't understand this. So 2 to 3 years later, I met this brother in a bar, and he was the managing the bar, and he needed a bartender, and I was a bartender. So I started bartending for him, and just so happened, I moved in with him for a couple of days, a little while. His name was Dane Morris. He was going to class, and him going to class, he had the Moses chart up on his wall, and I asked him, I said, man, what is this here? And he told me, he said, well, look, that's something I was a part of, and we're not doing that right now anymore. And so a few days passed, and I asked him again. I said, well, what is that? And he told me what the name was. So he told me about the creator and told me what his name was. So I'm cutting this up short because Shirley telling me I need to talk about us. She tells me everything to do and how to say it. So anyway, let me try to get to it. So after he had broken me down and he had brought me back into, and when I met Jake, he told me that the name was Yahweh. And when he told me that, I told him that day, I said, yes, I believe that. And I went to the library, I checked it out for myself. And from that day forward, I have not looked back. regardless of mama, daddy, sister, brother, anyone that you can find. So I went forward from that point on. Now, when it comes to Shirley and I, as she was saying, we did meet after 5 years. And as I told Dr. Boston I was going out to find a wife, I had went to every young lady that I had ever known. And at that time was about 5 different people. And that included the mothers of my daughters. And I told them about the name and about Yahweh. And they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to accept it. So for me, it told me I had to move on. And I'm just going by what Yahweh had put in me. So when I met Shirley, after those years had passed, and we were able to get together, and then as she said, about 5 years later, 6 months later, we got married. So this was the way Yahweh brought her in, and that's part of what my part was about as well. Now she was right. I learned that I wasn't the man of the house anymore, and what I mean by that is that I found out that wisdom is who my teacher was. So me trying to be the man or the one who wears the pants, I learned early that if I just listen to wisdom, I'll be fine. And that's what I began to do. So for instance, just as an example, Shirley she was making more money than I was. So I felt she knew to make decisions. And so I would back off and let her make the decision of what she wanted to do. Now, Yahweh was showing me how I needed to, in other words, get down and let Yahshua be the increase. And that's what he did. So I was able to understand through that wisdom was the one that was doing all of this and not the man. So Yahweh was teaching us about spirit. And as she said, when I went to California and I was gone those 9 months, the day that she said to me, as she was just saying that you can do what you need to do out there, me and the kids will be fine. That was the time I got off the phone with her. Yahweh showed me that instance. He said, "You're going home." Now, what it was about is that she and I both had to realize that it wasn't about us, that it was about him. But what I went out there for, I got more, because Yahweh had already shown that when he takes something from you, he gives you something better, which is he himself. So when I got back, understanding that it was not about us, it caused us to grow even more so. We used to have some knockdown dragouts before that. I mean, knockdown. The neighborhoods overall could hear us. And we learned that we had to, when we would find us in those situations, that we had to move. And moving meant that we had to get into those scriptures and we had to understand what Yahweh was trying to show us. As the children of Israel was moving through the wilderness out there, we had to live that same thing psychologically and spiritually so, and move in our understanding. So it's about you understanding what Yahweh is doing, what he has manifested for you to know about him. Because everything you go through, you are able to take it higher or to the next level and see him in his purpose. And when it comes to being married and looking for a mate, he said over there in Luke, says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else will be added unto you." That is a true statement. If you will do that first, Yahweh will make it right. He will, in other words, he's the one who set it up. So he's the one who has to run through it or show you how to run through it and make things be what they're supposed to be and make it all right within you. So truly, it is not about you as a man or as a woman, but it's about you knowing your father or the true husband that you have and being married unto him in the spirit and in truth. And that will take you far on down the track than you would ever expect to be, because it truly is about Yahweh and nothing else, and his Messiah. So that's what I got, caller. That's what we have.
All right. Hallelujah. Very good. I always enjoy y'all's stories. All right. So we're going to keep moving. For those of you that joined us a little late, what we're doing, the first part of class, we're having a few testimonies from different brethren that are in class and how, Yahweh gave them a mate and things that they had to go through and things like that. And then we're going to break down adultery and fornication. So sit tight with us. The next person I want to bring to the floor, to the session, this is actually what gave me hope. This particular story or this particular incident kind of gave me hope, and I've always used it in, whenever I would do things. So I'm going to ask my daddy, the dean of the Meridian class, Dr. Carl Boston, if you could share your story on how Yahweh actually gave you my mama, Dr. Boston.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm happy to be a part of this this evening, and I'm enjoying some of the things that I'm hearing, because mostly all of these stories are going to be basically the same in how we come together and how Yahweh brought us together, and the changes that we had to go through in order to cement and to solidify our relationship. And basically, it's parallel Yahweh relationship with Israel, and how often she left him, and he welcomed her back with open arms. You see, so that was a marriage also. But to get into how I met my wife, I'm going to try to cut this up because I know we got other folks who want to share. We used to have to walk to school, and it wasn't no little short journey. But I used to pass by my wife's house all the time going to school, but I didn't know her at that time. I knew of her family, but I didn't really know them. But as time went on, I ended up in Vietnam and got wounded, came back home. And so I was nightclubbing quite a bit and partying, and I had kind of got hooked on some drugs, some medication from the hospital, like the way it had me feeling. So I used to use that to get high on, drinking wine and relaxing. And I was at the club one night, and I saw my wife sitting at the table looking cute, sexy and sassy, and her friend. And I thought she had cut her eyes over and saw me because I was headed that way. But she pretended that she didn't see me coming. And so I ended up sitting down, and I spoke. I was speaking to her, but she thought I was talking to her friend. And so I kind of tapped her a little bit, let her know I was talking to her, and she wasn't trying to let on that she was into me like that. But anyway, I ended up getting her phone number, and I called her the next day, so we started dating. But I wasn't really into it at the time. I mean, I liked her and everything, but I wasn't a settling down kind at that time. I was still a very young man, and so I left and I went to California, and I told her that once I got out there and got settled, I was going to send for her. But that time went by, so I got out there and hit the streets and partying so much that I had lost track of what I had said. And so I was off in the street really heavy. And I was off with the drugs real heavy. LSD, angel dust, heroin, you name it, I was doing it. And when I look back on that now, I see how Yahweh took care of me, because I know I OD'd several times, and but he allowed me to continue to live. But that experience that I had with that kind of reminded me of what Solomon did, I think it's in Ecclesiastes, where he said he gave himself over to no folly and madness. And so I understood what he meant and what he was going through when you look those words up. And so he got a taste of it, and so did I. Yahweh permitted me to do that. And so I had several relationships with many different women, running those streets hard. And in the meantime, my wife had come on out there anyway, but we wasn't staying together because I would use my apartment for something other than that. But she was staying with a good friend of hers, so I used to go over there and see her. And so after a period of time, she came back home, And so I felt like I was free now to really go for it. So I did, and Yahweh let me run myself almost to death. I was so wore out and tired of partying, and seeing different women. I just got tired of it. It was making me sick to my stomach. That's how bad it got. Now, I had started going to class. Set this up how Yahweh had this set up. When I got to LA, I only had 2 jobs, and the second job I had was at Bumatic Manufacturing Company. And it just so happened when we all got at the same time, we had Alex Bailey Jr. He was in class. Some of you older heads might remember him. We had Jeff Gross, Dr. Gross's nephew, and we had Covenant Comier. All of us were working on the same job. And so that's how I found out about Yahweh. We was across the street there, Alex Bailey and myself. Well, only 2 over there, so we was talking about some scriptures and things, and he told me that the name of the Creator was Yahweh. Well, when I heard that, it was like a bulb, a light went off in my head, and I immediately understood and knew that that was his name. It just stuck in me. I said, okay, I believe that. He said, no, you don't. I said, yes, I do. I believe that's the name, man. He said, you don't believe that. I said, yes, I do. He said, well, you're going to have to start coming to class so you can learn about it. I said, all right, I'll start coming to class, but I know that that's his name. You know what I mean? And so it just felt good in me when he said that. But it was a while before I went to class. I was still running them streets heavy and hard. And finally, Yahweh just burnt me out with it. And I remember I was high on some LSD. And I had came home and had painted my walls with black light paint and had all kind of stuff on the marching band, bears, all of it stuff coming out of there. And so when you would get high on acid, those things would come alive and start moving. So folks used to love to come over to my apartment and trip out on that. But in this particular night, I came home, thrown out of my mind. And I thought I had the TV on, but it wasn't on, but I was watching it. That's what acid do to you. So Yahweh told me, and it was like a loud voice inside of me, so get up, go there and look in the mirror and look at yourself. And like something picked me up, so I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and he said, what do you see? And what I saw was a brown hood with nothing but black in the face part of it and a sickle. He said, now that's you if you don't straighten your life up. Scared the heck out of me. So I ran and got in my bed and tried to go to sleep. And yet this voice kept talking to me and talking to me and talking to me. And I put my hand over my ears, tried to stop it, and he kept on talking to me. So I turned over on my stomach and put my hands over my ears. And folks, this is real. Yahweh flipped my butt back over. And it's like he had his hand in my chest, got me pinned down, and made me listen to him. And I don't even remember when I went to sleep. All I know is the next morning, it was a Sunday morning, I got up. I think I was the first one in class. I think it was just me and the janitor there. And I was up on the first floor just looking at the charts and everything, but I'm going to try to cut this up. But anyway, some things had expired there, I think, when I went to class, and I was early sitting in there. And you know how you feel like somebody's staring at the back of your head? And I turned around, and it was Dr. Kelly staring at me. So I turned back around immediately, after he had nodded, and I nodded at him. I turned back around immediately, and this one came into my mind, because I heard folks talking about it. I said, if you be Yahweh, I want you to come back here and shake my hand. And so I forgot all about what I said there. Class got to filling up and everything. And so the next thing I know, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, there he is with his hand out. So that kind of started building my confidence in that I was in the right place. So I went on back home. Some time had passed, and I was laying in the bed and reading this passage where Yahweh had sent, where Abraham had sent his servants out to get a wife for Isaac. And I was reading the part where he was asking Yahweh for signs to let him know which one it was. So I said to myself, I said, Yahweh, that's what I want. I want you to give me a sign. Let the next person to call on this phone, let that be the one. And as soon as I had that thought, the phone rang and it startled me when it did hit. And it was my wife, my future wife at the time. And so I was as happy as I could be. So I told her I wanted her to come back out and asked her if she needed me to send her some money. She said no. So she came on back out. Now, she didn't go to class right away. But she thought I was doing something else. She thought I was up to something. But I was in class, and every time I come home, she would ask me what was they preaching about. So I would tell her. And this went on for about a week or two. She would ask me. I said, well, now, if you want to know, you need to come and see for yourself. So finally, she did. And so she came to class, but what she noticed was, I noticed her first time, but what she noticed was how that the women who had not seen me with a woman before, that had been eyeballing me and I didn't know it, started coming up to me and pretending like they really knew me. So that kind of pissed her off. And so I didn't have no problem getting her to come to class from that point on. But anyway, we started coming to class and learning and learning. She was learning. Yahweh was opening up some things for her. And we used to be at home arguing about stuff because I remember one time I told her that Yahweh couldn't change his mind. She said, well, yes, he can too, because he's God. He can change his mind. He can do whatever he wants. I said, no, he cannot change his mind. And so we argued about that for a little while, and finally Yahweh revealed it to her and showed it to her. And so we painted that Moses chart in my living room there, and we're getting a lot of revelations from that. And so as we were painting it, you see, and then we got to arguing again about what was going on that chart. And so she smacked me in the face with the paintbrush. So I looked at her, and she knew what was coming. Don't, Carlos. So I smacked her back, and I just wiped her face with the brush. And so we had a lot of fun going. It was me and her against the world, basically. And that's how we saw it. And so she wanted to have children, and I told her, man, we can't have no children out here, not California. So we go back home. And but she hated that. But anyway, that was my partner in crime. That was my right hand. I used to lay my head in her lap, and she'd read scriptures to me. And when Yahweh would show me something, I'd tell her, hold up, read that again. And she'd read it again. She said, what you see? And so that's what our relationship was like coming up. But I'll be remiss if I didn't say that we had some tough times in our relationship too. The devil came on in and tried to separate us with some hard things. But the thing that kept going on in my mind over and over again is what Dr. Kenner had said. He said, I wouldn't give you a nickel for a divorce. So that was on my mind. I was going to stick the thing out no matter what. So finally, Yahweh brought it to where we weren't arguing and fussing no more. We were able to see eye to eye on things, and which was a big relief. Because I was in there 100%. I was in there for my family. I had made up my mind that everything I did was going to be for them. And it was. I bought them everything that they wanted. They never wanted for anything. I went without for a long time so that they could have a life. I figured that was my role. That was my part to play in this thing. That was in my mind and my heart. And so I gave it all to them, all the way up until my wife passed away. And I know Yahweh was getting me prepared for that when she had the cancer. And the first time, and let me say this too before I go there, my wife was a mighty warrior. You didn't want to come up against her. She would tear your head right off your shoulders. By the scriptures too. You just didn't mess with her like that. You couldn't come to her with that. But anyway, she had got sick with cancer. She had breast cancer. She had breast removed. But the cancer hadn't gone anywhere. It got in her lymph nodes. So she got to swelling up and thought she was just gaining weight. But she had a big old tumor in her the size of a basketball that they had to cut out of her. And it was downhill from there. And she kept getting sicker and sicker. And so one day she told me, she said, Carlos, I'm not taking no more of that chemo. I'm tired of it. I said, well, baby, that's how you feel about it. I mean, I can't tell you what to do with your body. I mean, that's your body. You know how you feel. And she said, but I can smell it. I can smell my body burning. I said, well, all right, then, just stop taking it. And so she did. And I think the doctor had given her about 6 months to live, and she lived the whole year after that. And so that's when the devil started coming in trying to tear my head up. Because for that time that she started getting sick, we was unable to be intimate with one another. That went on for about 5 years before she passed away. And that thing was tearing me up. Women was coming out the woodwork. Women that she worked with, they was coming to the post office where I was working, giving me notes with their phone number and stuff for me to call them and all that kind of thing. I mean, it was rough on the fella, especially when you haven't had sex in 5 years, you understand? So it was rough on me. And I kept asking Yahweh to remove that thing off me because I couldn't maintain. And I used to get angry with my wife because of that. And then I had to realize it wasn't her fault. She didn't want to have cancer. And so that was tearing me up. There was so much going on in me at that time, it was kind of rough on her. But through that process, Yahweh killed me off. I didn't know that's what was going on at the time, but that was some hard, painful suffering that he sent me through, and I couldn't do nothing about it because I wasn't going to go out and cheat. That was a no. Even though I intended to, even though I had set up to do so, he would not allow that to take place, and I'm glad he didn't. And so through that process, Yahweh calmed me down, you see, and after my wife had passed away, a day after we had gotten married, we got married July the 5th, and she passed away on July the 6th in 2001. And so here I am now, a single man, still not that old yet. I think I was in my 50s, I believe. And so that next year, I think around December, January, somewhere in there, I found out I had cancer, colon cancer. Well, I got to look at it. I looked at it and went to the doctor. He was laying out some scenarios to me, told me he can go in there and clip it out and reattach it, and I wouldn't have to have a colostomy bag and all that. So I prayed to Yahweh about it. Well, Yahweh, you get in that man, you do the surgery, because I know if you do it, it's going to be right. And that was my thinking. And so I went all ahead and let him do it, and hadn't had no problem with it since. And so those are some of the things that our experienced folk got to ask me, well, you going to get remarried? You going to get remarried? I said, well, I ain't got no intention to get remarried. I remember saying to my wife that she was the only woman for me. There was not another woman in this world that I would even care about like it was with her. And so time went on, and I got to thinking about it. I said, well, I don't have to be alone. I can find me somebody, you know what I mean, if women was interested. But as I thought about it, and I had been single for a few years, I said, well, no, that's it for me. I'm not looking for nobody. I'm not trying to get hooked up with nothing because I had my freedom. I can go and come when I want to and have nobody to answer to say where you been and all this kind of thing. So I was content with that. Yahweh took all them things away from me. He provided for me, made a way for me to have a living without having to work. And so I've been fine ever since. So my whole thing was, along with my wife, was to preach this gospel. That's what we came down here for, was to preach this gospel to as many as Yahweh would bring under the sound of it, and to help them to come to know him as he really is and actually exists. And we did evangelize this whole town, and all through Mississippi, all up in Jackson, and I can't think of the other two places that we was evangelizing. But that's basically how we got together. Yahweh had put us together. This was a marriage made in heaven. All of them, the sons of Yahweh who are married, these marriages were made in heaven. And that's why you married down here on earth, because it was done in heaven. And so that's how Yahweh has shown me about these things. And so everything that goes on down here, as was stated by Dr. Cole and his wife there, that everything got to go back to Yahweh. It all goes back to him. We are an expression of him. And through the process of us being married and that kind of thing, all the feelings that we have, Yahweh is letting us understand and know this thing. And there's some passages in there I read that when a husband or a wife was cheating on the husband, Yahweh would send the spirit of jealousy into that person mate and make them be jealous. And in other words, he was letting them know that something was up. See? So that's how it works. That's how it works. Yahweh worked these things through us. I'm not going to take up no more time because I want to hear some of the others. But that's our story in a nutshell to how we come together and how things worked out for us. And it was until death did us part. She went home, and I'm still down here fighting a good fight of faith.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hallelujah. Should have let you go last. I'm about to start looking ugly crying. All right. Thank you for that, Dr. Boston. Next, I want to call on from the Orlando, Florida branch, Dr. Dennis Allen. Dr. Allen, if you could share your story on how Yahweh brought you your mate.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. Can you hear me?
Sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening to everyone. The first thing I would like to say about myself and Wanda, my wife, is we have known each other our entire lives. We go all the way back to Head Start. So I have known this woman sitting next to me from the moment I can remember consciousness. And it just seems fitting that we are together this day. But we grew up, our parents were friends. Our dads, our fathers worked for the same company. We went through grade school together, middle school together, high school together. But yet we were always friends, but through all that time, we never dated. And I left our hometown because we're not originally from Orlando. We are from Florida. We lived in a small town called Tarpon Springs, just about 15 miles west of Tampa. That's where we were raised. And I joined the military, went off to Virginia, traveled all over the world on the USS Mount Whitney, and somehow got connected with Wanda. And we began to date. And mind you now, neither one of us are in class at this time. And this is over about 38 years ago. And then I was introduced to this teaching by a family member, one of my cousins. And I attended the first 2, 3, or 4 classes. And yet I'm still a single man, still in the military serving. And not long before I was to be discharged, Wanda and I connected, and we got married. And at this time, we were still living on the west coast of Florida. Neither one of us were in class, but I had been to class. And ironically, it was in the month of October, all the way back in about 1984. I told her about this teaching, and she told me, and if she would like to say something about it, she can. She's shaking her head no. That the minute I told her that the name was Yahweh, she said she dreamed about it all night, and she knew, even though she heard it for the very first time from me, it was the truth. And so what I did was, and this is in the fall of 1984. I got in contact with one of my cousins, the one that invited me to class, and she told me that there was a class in Orlando. But prior to that, we had told a couple friends, and the dean drove over and his wife to our home and had a couple sessions in our home. But it seemed like no one was, we had people that came, but no one was really interested in, having a class there. And this is long before the Tampa class ever existed. And so what we began to do, or I began to do, we would drive to Orlando, which was about a 2-hour drive from where we lived, every Sunday for class. And on Sunday mornings, I would get up and sometimes she didn't want to go. And so I was going to class by myself. And then I would come home and I would audio tape the classes, and I would, want to play the tapes. And at the beginning, she didn't want to hear them. She said, "You've been over there all day, and now you want to come home and play these tapes," because I wanted her to be a part of this as well. And at first, she kind of rejected it. And then at a certain point, she started coming to class with me. And we did this for an entire year, driving back and forth from Orlando to Tampa for class. And it just got to be too much, because that was 4.5 hours on the road every class. And so we decided to move. And she moved first, and I kept the kids with me. And later that summer, after I quit my job, packed up the house, I moved to Orlando too. And this was in about 1986 or so. And as everyone has stated, in their relationships, and ours is no different. There have been good times, and there have been times that have been not so good. And one of the things that Wanda and I talked about, and kind of made a commitment, if you will, or a vow to each other when we finally committed to move here. And it was this, that neither one of us would let the other one stop us from coming to class. That class had become more important. And I hope this is understood when I say it. And I'm sure that those that are listening tonight understand this, that class had become more important than our relationship together. And that's not to, say that our marriage wasn't what it was supposed to be or could have been. I love her with all my heart. But we got to understand that these relationships that we have, these marriages and these mates that Yahweh has given us to get through this creation with, they're types, they're shadows, they're pointing to Yahshua and his bride. And as we progress and learn and grow together, and what Yahweh has done for us as a family, as a couple, is hold us in this teaching, hold us together in it, has caused us to see and understand his purpose, and for us to see eye to eye in his purpose. And that's been the glue, if you will, that has held us together to this day. And looking back through all that we've gone through as a family, as a husband, as a wife, as a couple in class, I wouldn't trade it for anything. To now to have someone that sees the Heavenly Father as you do, and that we can sit and we can talk about this teaching for hours. We can talk about what Yahweh has shown each one of us. And, sometimes it's like, oh, I just saw the same thing. Or, did you see, and again, or something happens in the world, or something happens on television, you see something on television, and we're automatically lining it up to something that's already happened in the scripture. Or someone will say something on the news and say, well, that's in the book over there. And those kind of things that, and being on this side of the fence now, it's like, I don't know if that would be possible if we weren't in this class together, and that Yahweh has taken certain things away from us, that all the things that we had once participated in Christianity, if you will. And I'll say this too, that prior to coming into class, I was not a churchgoer. I wasn't that guy, and it wasn't important to me. And what was more important to me was working, making money, trying to progress and church and religion were things that old people did, and that we'll do that when we get old. And but while we're young, we got other things to do. And again, because when I looked at religion and Christianity, all I saw was a bunch of old people sitting up in the church. And I viewed them as individuals that had lived their life, run the streets, done all their dirt, and now they're too old to do anything else. And that's how I viewed it. And what Yahweh did to me and my wife, we basically were solidified in this class in our early 20s. And all of a sudden the world changed. And this class was our focus, and raising our children in this teaching as well. And I'll say this, that everybody wants this. And what I mean by that is this: every man wants a woman that loves him. Every woman wants a man that loves her. And they both want to love their creator. And they want to raise their children in that same warmth, that same love that they have come to know and understand. And that's where, and as far as that can go in this physical creation, that's the as much peace as we can get down here now, until Yahshua is universally revealed, or until we individually take off the flesh. But I wouldn't have it any other way down here at this point. And again, I know some of you've seen it in your own classes where there are times you see couples struggle and they don't stay together, they don't survive, and for whatever reason. Whether it's they just find out philosophically in the teaching they can't get along, or there is someone else and someone is seeing someone else, and there's another relationship that's going on. And you see, and what we've come to understand, what I've come to understand, is that these relationships that we have is that we're walking through a minefield together, and Yahweh is choosing the steps for us, and causing us, as I say, not to get blowed up before this thing comes to an end, and that we navigate, and we're guided by Him. Make no mistake about this. I'm not going to be the guy to sit down and write a book on a perfect marriage in class, because I have no idea how that works. This has been a journey that we've been led by the hand to and through, and so there is the recipe for this is Yahshua. Just to be clear about that, the recipe for this is Yahshua, and if we can navigate and survive this, and keep in mind all the time that we got a book full of scripture, and we got a creator that dealt with a group of people, and we see the pitfalls that they suffered throughout their sojourn in Egypt, the wilderness, Canaan's land, through the prophecy when Yahshua the Messiah comes along, and for the most part, we can look at those things, and those things are the stories of our lives, and how Yahweh has led us through this down here now. And it's only through His mercy and His grace that we can survive down here now. And that Yahweh, through His Son, Yahshua the Messiah, has to put the understanding in us to make us see it, to make us, so we can down here be of one heart and one mind as a couple in this class. And Wanda's sitting here shaking her head. She don't want to have anything to say. I think I've said everything for us, but
I didn't say I
you
don't have anything to say.
Okay, I'm gonna let you have something to say, then go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. Something that Dennis did leave out that I think is very important is I was married before. I married my so-called high school sweetheart and was treated very, very bad. And at that time, I was so young, and I guess the word would be naive. I truly didn't understand how one person could treat another person so bad when that person didn't do anything to them to warrant that. I just couldn't understand it. So when Dennis and I started dating and got married, and Yahweh showed me when I was brought into class, he showed me how that you got to go through the darkness first before you can get into the light. And I know none of us are perfect, but that was a type of what he had showed me about coming to class, because I was in the darkness first. And then I was told about this teaching, and he brought me into the light. So that's what was manifested in my natural marriage. It was awful. But then he gave me someone else, and I wasn't looking, because I was like, I never want to go through that again. That was a hard lesson to learn. And I never wanted to go through that again. So I wasn't even looking for anybody. And he just brought Dennis to me. And he had to bring him to me to tell me about class, because I would have never known. And when he told me about class, it was like that night I went to bed, all I could see was Yahweh, Yahweh, the name, just Yahweh all night long. And I knew, I said, this is real. This is real. And I just feel like we sometimes don't even realize how blessed we are, because just like First John 5:21, the whole world lieth in wickedness. We know that we are of Yahweh, and that the whole world lieth in wickedness. And it's just manifesting. You just don't need nobody to write you a letter to tell you where we are right now in this world. So I'm thankful that Yahweh allowed me to know something about him. Out of all the people in my hometown where we come from, just us two, he brought us in class. That's riches beyond measure. And so I'm just, sometimes I just say, I can't believe that Yahweh called me into this teaching and taught me something about himself, because that's eternal life. So I'm just thankful. And I will tell anybody, I'm not ashamed of this gospel, because it's the power of Yahweh unto salvation to every one of us that believe it. And I'm just happy to give a testimony of how I was brought in and how Yahweh gave me a mate from a natural standpoint. So I just like to say hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Goodness gracious, that was good. I had never heard y'all's story, so that's actually beautiful. That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you guys for sharing. I think we got one more, maybe two more. And so all the stories that we've heard so far tonight, you know, Yahweh has given, you know, you guys mates and things like that, and brought you both in class together, and how you guys, you know, go through these things together with, you know, Yahweh in the forefront and things like that. But you do have people who are married or thinking about getting married, and their mate, you know, isn't in class. So how did you handle that? So we do have one of our brothers, and I wanted to share his story tonight, and he can kind of get into more of that or whatever. But I just want you guys to hear from different aspects of it. Dr. Cole, Dr. Joseph Cole from Meridian, if you could unmute yourself, please, sir.
Good evening, class. Can y'all hear me?
Good evening, yes, sir.
All right. So I'll try to be somewhat brief as Yahweh will allow it to go, but hopefully it'll bring out some principles that, you know, as you listen to testimonies, you get to kind of running off on different revelations that he's showing you. So hopefully he'll bring some of those out or lay them out. So my story is a little unique in the fact that the way Yahweh took me, and I hope y'all are seeing a theme here that it is truly Yahweh driving the boat for every one of these testimonies, to get to a point to express himself. And I hope you're seeing that thing too. But so the way Yahweh took me was I actually uh, was in a relationship, a long-term relationship with a brethren that I introduced her to the truth our freshman year of college. And she took to it like a fish to water. I still marvel at that sometimes, how it didn't take a whole lot of convincing and teaching. And I remember sitting in my dorm room and telling her about it, and she was just all about it. And went to class the first time, and she was like, "That's it." And so, um, we had a what I would call, and I think a lot of people from the outside looking in, probably a wonderful relationship. Even people that didn't know or didn't understand that we, shared the truth. Um, and we, actually didn't end up together though, I guess. And so, we stayed together all throughout college for the most part, and shared some beautiful testimonies and revelations between each other. Uh, Learned a lot about Yahweh between each other. But it's Yahweh driving the boat for his purpose though, right? And she would have to give her own testimony as to, the direction Yahweh took her after he separated us. And it says what Yahweh put together, let no man put asunder. Well, Yahweh put us asunder. And it was in ways that, me being in it would have never imagined, especially with us, sharing the truth like that. But I mean, it looking back on it now, it was just apparent that Yahweh again is driving the boat. And so Yahweh kind of took me off to myself, and that is the point and mind you, so I was born into teaching. So the story you heard, I guess about 3 stories ago, where they met each other again after 5 years and all that, I'm one of the physical products of that. And so they were both in class when I was born. And so I'm, in this thing from the birth canal. And some of the greatest elevation that Yahweh gave to me was during that time in between the relationship. Well, I would say, let me put it this way: after that relationship, that where we shared the truth together, and Yahweh just took me off to myself, and I tell you, and there's countless things that He showed me. But I would tell you one of the greatest revelations, and I'll never forget crying about this. I was driving to work, and when Yahweh showed it to me, I cried in the car, and it was tears of joy, because what He showed me was that all the love I would ever need is within me. Okay, and I'm like the typical male kid growing up. You see your parents married, you see your grandparents married, you see all these people married on TV. You're watching the Huxtables, and I had the biggest crush on Claire Huxtable. I wanted Claire Huxtable, right? I wanted to marry a woman like that. And so, in my mind growing up, marriage is just something natural part of life, something you're supposed to do, another step in life. But when Yahweh showed me that all the love I ever needed is within me, because love itself is within me, then I was finished up. Like it was nothing else I needed from anyone or anybody. And I would tell you, for those of you that are not married, or feel like you're seeking a mate or whatever, you would do yourself well to ask Yahweh to show you that first, whether you plan to marry somebody that's in the truth or not. You would do yourself well for Yahweh to show you who He is, who you are, and then realize that all the love you ever need is right there within yourself. Okay. And then once you realize it, teach everybody that you can teach about it, because that is the most peaceful and liberating revelation that is one of them that I've ever received, was that one. So anyway, moving forward, so I'm to the point where I'm not looking for a spouse. You know, I'm graduated. I'm driving to work. You know, Yahweh gives me that revelation, and you know, I got a couple buddies down here where I still live now on the coast, and you know, we're having a good time. And you know, I've even testified from the floor before. I saw no purpose in getting married, quite honestly, at all. And Yahweh kind of brought along a thought in my mind, and it's kind of weird now looking back at it, because I still don't, or I know why I was put there, because I had to move, but it didn't really add up to where I was in my conscience. So basically, I asked him, "Hey, if you got somebody you want me to marry, then go ahead and introduce me to him." And so I've been single probably 2 years by then, and a couple months later, Yahweh introduced me through one of my college buddies to the woman that I would marry 5 years later. We had a long courtship, but and you know, and when I met her, or Yahweh introduced me to her, you know, again, I'm not thinking about what I had asked him for to introduce me to her. And he did it just like that. It was an introduction. It wasn't I stepped to her at the party or she stepped to me at the party. It was an introduction between a mutual friend. So there's, you know, I hope you're seeing none of this is by happenstance. And who's driving the boat. So at the time, again, I'm not thinking about, you know, meeting anybody special or anything like that. Matter of fact, far from it. I was probably more of the, and I just go ahead and say I was probably more of the mindset that Dr. Boston was talking about a little earlier, maybe without the drugs part, but with the women part, I was probably more had that mindset at the time. And really, there was another woman that I had met around that time that probably I saw more as what she's probably the one, if anybody. And again, I'm not really thinking, but she would probably, you know, had the most potential in my mind, I guess. I'll put it that way. So time goes on, and I'm getting to know my friend first, I guess I'll say, that would later become my wife. And we were great friends. We could talk and have these long conversations. And you know, eventually I introduced her to the truth before we became an official ticket, or might have been around the same time. And you know, she wasn't really obviously she didn't accept it, but she also didn't, I guess you could say, deny it or denounce it either. She's my wife has never been, since I've known her, a very religious person. She would call herself a Christian, but she's probably been in the church maybe 2 or 3 times since I've known her, and so we met, I guess 11 and 12 years ago, something like that. And so at her father actually went to theology school, I guess is what you call it. And he's not a preacher or anything. Matter of fact, he's far from it. But she actually was able to go ask him after I told her about the truth, what it was, or ask him about it. And he said, yeah, that is what they taught her, said that was the name. But still, she didn't accept it. But I can tell you, just in our dealings together as a couple, and I may have forgot to mention, she actually did come to class one time. Can't remember if I said that. That she has never I would say, again, denied or disrespected the truth or anything like that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't hold a lot of bullets back for Christianity, and talking with her, but Yahweh has kind of allowed her to be at peace with that, and I'm at peace with it too. But I'm, gonna always speak the truth. And so, one of the things that I'll say, as far as, being married to someone that, has not accepted the truth. Well, I'll say this first. It's not that different from being married to somebody that does. You're still gonna have problems on either side. Still gonna get in arguments, still gonna get into disputes. The difference is, to be married to somebody that knows the truth, you're able to, commune and talk as one on that same spiritual level, right? And that's a great benefit. Now that's, mind you, that other person has come to that point yet, and we can all testify to it that don't always come immediately. And so, once Yahweh gets you both settled down to where, yeah, we can now commune on a spiritual level, then all right, then that is a great benefit to being married to someone that that accepts the truth. But in my case, and in any other case that, for somebody that is with a mate that has not accepted the truth, what you find out is that, or what it proves, is that Yahweh has access to every man's conscience, and he is every man and or woman, right? And so, the way I deal with things, or where Yahweh has taught me to deal with things, from a marriage standpoint, is that, first understand that it's gonna sound funny or may sound bad to some of you, but first understand you're not married for love. All right. You already showed you that you got all the love you need within you. Okay. So what am I married for? Then Yahweh. Well, some of y'all that have heard me say this probably 1,000 times. When I went off to college, I asked Yahweh, what is this for? Why am I going off to college? He said, I got something to show you. I asked him the same question before I got married. We had been engaged for a while, and I think, we were making wedding plans and all that. And I stopped for a second and said, Yahweh, what is this for? Why am I getting married? Because it was not on my bucket list. And he told me the same thing. I got something to show you. And so that right there is, and mind you, now I love my wife and she loves me, but in reality, Yahweh showed me that I'm not married for love. I'm married for him to show me something. I know that sounds tough. That is probably hard to swallow for some of you, but that is the reality of the situation. And once you realize that, hey, I'm here to learn of Yahweh, that this whole situation is to learn of Yahweh, then you're able to deal with those kind of things from high, like, all right, Yahweh, we got a scuffle going, or we got this stretch where we can't agree on different things. Well, the same thing that someone would have to do that, and I told you it wasn't very different. The two weren't very different. The same thing that those have to do that are married or a spouse to someone that is in the truth. The same thing I have to do is go to Yahweh first. And I can tell you, I can testify to that because I had to do it in the previous relationship that I told you about. And I had to go to Yahweh first again, and then get and ask Yahweh, okay, what is this about? Or sometimes it's Yahweh, you don't have to fix this because I can't, I got nothing. And when you get in reality, you never do have anything. But anyway, and it's been beautiful to watch on this side, being married to somebody that has not accepted the truth, it's just like sometimes it's like a switch almost, where when I acknowledge Yahweh and get recentered, I'll say, then it'd be like a switch that she, like, everything that was bothering her or bothering me, it's wiped away. Her, whatever, if she was doing something that was rubbing me the wrong way, it stops. And I mean, it's like a common, it's like the Messiah when he told the sea to be still, and I promise you, it's just like that. And so again, for me to see that shows me that this marriage ain't about me finding somebody to love, or Yahweh bringing me somebody to love. Again, back to my big revelation I told y'all, I didn't need that. I didn't need somebody for that. And so just being able to watch those things and watch Yahweh, kind of, well, not kind of, but watch Yahweh kind of, I'm about to say again, bring things together and kind of drive the boat. I can't remember which testimony it was just speaking, but I actually tried to sabotage this, right? Again, because I had no intentions of getting married. So I was setting up things and trying to, still have my fun. And this is when, me and my wife were just dating at the time. And Yahweh would do stuff that I mean, it is right there in front of me. And, something would come up where I couldn't sabotage it, if you will. And I remember talking to my mom about, and this was not long after I met my wife, that I met this girl, and she, she checks a lot of the boxes. I won't lie. I mean, and this me being um, disobedient, I'll just say, to the witnesses that Yahweh showing me. She, she checks a lot of boxes with things that I wanted in a wife. I told you I wanted to marry Claire Huxtable, right? Claire Huxtable was a lawyer, but my wife is a lawyer. Claire Huxtable had a beautiful smile, in my opinion, and my wife does too, in my opinion. Almost the same smile, almost the same hair length, same skin complexion, whole nine. And so, and that wasn't all the witnesses I was telling my mom about, but it's just, an example. And even her phone number ends from the day I met her, ends in 777. And so I'm looking at, at all these things y'all was showing me, like, look now, these are the witnesses. This shit might have gone accepted, but I was, trying to hold on as long as I could, I guess I'll say, put it that way. But anyway, to get back to the point, it was Yahweh that was obviously driving the boat, to put me in that first relationship. And I'm gonna try to bring this home here now. Put me in the relationship where we shared the truth, and that growth that I had right after that, to prepare me for now, to where I'm, if you will, on an island to an extent. I hope y'all kind of understand the words I'm using there. And all it does for me is make me stronger in Yahweh and able to have that or have it more realized, because it's like this anyway, whether you're like the previous testimonies or like mine, where you really realizing, and it becomes obvious that your true marriage is with Yahweh himself, and he's your husband. I say this, and I'm getting ready to shut it down, is, I think I said I know I did it on a testimony, I can't remember how long ago, but it wasn't that long ago, that Yahweh knows how to romance me. And that's what I meant at that time, is Yahweh knows how to show me that he loves me through countless number of ways, whether it be playing a song or just answering my prayer, right? And all of you have experienced that, whether it be through a parent or through a spouse or whatever, when they do something that instills your trust in them, well, that makes you love them even more, right? If love had a quantity. So all those different things that Yahweh's always romancing me and doing things, putting puzzle pieces in place that I couldn't have found, nobody else could have found it, and things happened that made me just had to admit that, hey, Yahweh put this together. Yahweh made this happen or this happen. So that's what I, always see with my wife is Yahweh put it together to show me all the things that I've just told you, and there's again a multitude of other revelations that I've received from it. And so top that up kind of real short. I hope it makes sense. I would just encourage everyone kind of come back full circle to, if you haven't realized this or if Yahweh hasn't shown it to you yet, ask Yahweh about that love within yourself. And that'll put you in those places where you're not looking for someone and you don't need anybody for any type of love. And it's great to have, don't get me wrong, but to realize that everything you need is within yourself, that is the most comforting feeling that you could ever want to feel. So these few words I'll back out, and I thank you. Hallelujah.
All right, hallelujah. Thank you, Dr. Cole. Thank you, everybody, for your testimonies. It's been very edifying. I know everybody's been enjoying it because it is bringing a lot of stuff to light. It's seeing, for us to see how Yahweh has worked with, everybody. It's just beautiful. Just even thinking about my own testimony, it's just, Yahweh is wonderful. And the thing is, when we found out that the end was declared from the beginning and how that Yahweh had all these things set up from the beginning and he had all these things purposed already, it just makes you, he's worthy to be praised, y'all, forever and ever. It's just beautiful. I'm going to share I know a lot of you have already heard our testimony already. I'm going to give my part of it. I'm not sure if my husband can say anything or not because he has a baby, and I think the baby's still asleep, and he's crazy, so we don't like to wake him up when we're having class. So briefly, prior to, just like Joseph talked about, prior to, I was in a relationship too with somebody that was in class, but before we even get to that point, me watching my mom and my daddy all my life, I knew that soulmates were possible, but I never thought it was possible for me. So I never even had that desire in the beginning at all. Of course, growing up, coming into, growing up in class, being in class all my life or whatever, things like that, of course, you hear, you have faith and you have faith and you have faith, you have faith. And so as things, transpired in my life and I got older, things started happening. My faith, in my mind, my faith was unmatched. You couldn't bother me with nothing that come up because I already know Yahweh going to take care of this. He take care of everything. Yahweh got me through this. He got me through that. All these different things, right? And so, of course, seeing how my parents were growing up, because hands down, I ain't taking no shots with nobody. I'm not knocking nobody, nothing like that. But I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that Yahweh truly did give me the best mama and daddy in the whole entire world. All y'all, everybody else is number two. That's yours. You can have that. But mine were number one. My mom and my dad are number one, hands down. You can't give. It's just impossible, right? So me growing up having that in my mind and seeing their relationship, I always knew that it was possible, but I never thought, whatever. So, like my dad said, when my mama got sick or whatever, and she had been sick all her life. Actually, she had, when they gave her, a certain time to live, whatever, she actually lasted way longer than that. She, when she first got diagnosed with breast cancer, I think back 86, I believe it is, or whatever, she ended up living 15 years after that. And I remember the prayer that she said she had given. She had said she wanted to see her kids grow up. you know, she wasn't gonna listen to what the doctor said. That's too much. She ain't got that long. She gonna watch her girls grow up and blah blah blah. All right, I turned 21 that April. She got so sick to where she kind of was out of it, kind of like in a coma state, kind of was out of it, and she ended up in the hospital and things like that. She woke up out of her, you know, that out of it state on my mama and daddy's 28th wedding anniversary is when I got the call, and she was up and she was talking, and she was, you know, she was back to normal. And so I was like, oh yeah, I knew she was gonna be back. Oh yeah. That. On the 28th wedding anniversary, the very next day is when she passed away. All kind of things happened after that, you know, whatever. A lot of painful memories with that. But even through all of that, Yahweh was showing us, you know, some things with all that and whatever. But to keep the story straight, keep everything to this particular topic. And that to me showed me that they were truly soulmates. For her to, out of all the days that Yahweh could have made her come back to, it was on their 28th wedding anniversary, right? And so me even watching my daddy after that, and I ain't gonna lie, I used to go to the post office and be on watch or whatever and shut things down. Don't call my daddy house. He can't have company. He can't have nobody calling him. My mama said that whenever, if she leave or whatever, that he can't be with nobody else. I'm going to make sure he ain't going to be with nobody else. So I'm glad that Yahweh put it in his heart that he want to be with nobody else because he was going to have trouble with me. But let me get back to my story. All right. So then, you know, watching all these things, whatever. So in my mind, I know what it looks like to be loyal, to be faithful, to be all those things. And that's exactly what I'm going to be. So whenever I would be in a relationship, I would treat it as if it was a marriage. You know, I would give my everything to it, So I ended up being in a relationship with somebody and introducing the class and things like that. And he became, you know, start coming to class. And we grew together. Like Yahweh started showing us both some things, just like Joseph talked about, wherever we were in a, you know, it was wonderful. We would have all kind of different revelations. We were battling against his family or whatever, because they was all real big into the Bible and stuff like that. And we were kind of, you know, Yahweh was actually revealing some things to us, whatever. We ended up growing apart though. I wasn't happy as far as, you know, me being happy or, you know, things like that or whatever. We actually started growing apart. And so, long story short, Yahweh ended up separating us. Now, we weren't separated, like we didn't break up because, you know, cheating and nothing like that. We just parted. You know, Yahweh parted us. And Yahweh showed me after the fact that the reason why he even put us together in the first place then was to introduce him to the gospel and for us to grow to get to where we were at that time, whatever, right? And so then the next relationship I got in, when I met this particular person, because mine before I even met him or anybody else, like people always ask that question, what you look for in a mate? What you look for in a mate? Da. And I used to always say a nice smile. You know, that's the first thing that I'm attracted to is a nice smile. And then, you know, secondly, it'll be this, or secondly, it'll be that. Just physical things. These are physical things that I'm saying that I'm looking for in a mate. And so as I got older, okay, well, what you look for in a husband? What you want your husband to be? Because I always want to be married. Well, a nice smile. I want him to be tall, play basketball, and you know, this and that, da. Oh, I want him to be able to sing, and you know, whatever. All right. Physical things, right? And so I'm going through the motions. And so after that particular relationship was over, the next person I ended up talking to was tall, played basketball, had a nice smile. Couldn't really sing though. But we both loved Anthony Hardaway, my favorite basketball player at the time, and didn't nobody else in the world love. So I'm thinking that he must be the one. Because mind you, when I met him, I felt a flash like Terry talked about. It was like I felt something. Now I tried to act, you know, like shun it away or whatever, because I'm tough, I'm hard. So we be in this long relationship. I'm like, anything that you can do wrong to somebody was done to me. As bad, like Ms. Wanda said, to be able to do somebody that wrong without them having done anything to you, how is that even possible? Goodness gracious, but because I treat every relationship like a marriage, I'm still going to stick it out because in my mind, he must be the one. because all these boxes are checked except for the singing part. He can take some singing lessons, whatever. Physical things. Not one time did it cross my mind that I want somebody in the gospel. Not yet. That hadn't crossed my mind. And so when I went through all those horrible things that I went through in that 6-year relationship that I was in, anything you could do wrong to somebody besides kill them, he did, right? So I'm like, Yahweh, what in the world? And so I'm going through 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, and I'm looking at like, well, dog, what? I'm confused now. So am I supposed to go back to the other relationship? Well, now he got somebody now, so I can't even go back to that relationship. And then plus, we had grown apart already. We 2 different people now. Am I supposed to be just stuck with this person? And is this the marriage that you was talking? Like, I'm confused because I don't even know what the scripture is talking about. Even though I read it a million times, I'm confused. Yahweh, am I stuck? I felt stuck. And so I remember just still going to class, still doing anything like that. Brought him to class. He started coming to class. He accepted that the name was Yahweh, but then he started having other questions that I couldn't answer. And so from that, I started learning more. Yahweh grew me in my understanding. So we both started listening to Dr. Kimmy tapes and things like that together. And he was, start, acting as if he was coming around to understand some things about Yahweh. Not doing the things you was doing, honey. No, that's a lie. But anyway, so Yahweh finally severed that relationship. I ended up, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life is what I'm saying. Yahweh, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to be single for the rest of my life, blah, 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 blah. Ended up meeting another guy. Well, I was introduced to another guy. Boxes being checked again. He couldn't sing, though. But boxes being checked, nice smile, athletic, physical things still. But then I started adding to the box, though. I started adding check boxes. Okay, well, he got to be more intimate. I can't do all this with the whole, all these different women and da-da-da-da-da-da. So the new boxes started being checked. I thought, honey, he was worse than the first one. But anyway, so after going through all these different things, you know what, Yahweh, I must be doing it wrong. What is the problem? Because what I was doing, y'all, it would be a physical attraction first. And then I would try to bring Yahweh into it to fix it for me. That's what I had in my mind now. Okay, Yahweh, I'm gonna go find them, and then you fix them for me, and you make them be what I want, what I want them to be. That's what I had in my mind. I really thought I didn't realize that that's what I was thinking, but that's exactly what I was doing. I was going out finding what I thought I wanted in a mate, but I'm thinking that Yahweh bringing it to me for this and that. This is ignorant as I want to be. And so then Yahweh showed me, you're doing it the wrong way, darling. The physical was never first. You got to look at the pattern. The spiritual was always first. And so I was like, okay, well, Yahweh, look, but maybe I need to find somebody. Now, I'm just now trying to find somebody in class. Like, come on. Because in our class, like, again, we were isolated. Meridian class was isolated for a long time. Y'all didn't know we existed. And it was just us. So our class, we all family. So when no such thing as find somebody in class in Meridian, because we all family, not even after the flesh family, but, well, for the most part, but that's gross. That's gross to me to find somebody in class Meridian, because that's gross, you know what I mean? And then I didn't know about any other classes, and you ain't no way in the world you can come talking about all the angels were deceived, Yahshua piercing the glow, and all these things that we heard that started happening in IDMR, because I will physically fight, because I'm still ignorant. I was still so carnal-minded at the time. I would physically fight somebody if you supposedly know something about class, about Yahweh, and then you talking about erroneous stuff to me, I'll physically fight you and I'll be in jail. And so I was like, nope, I can't find nobody in class. So I got to find somebody in the world. So Yahweh, you got to bring them in. And then when you bring them in, then you're going to clean them up. Not clean me up now. You got to clean him up for me. Just as ignorant as I want to be, right? And so after Yahweh whooped my tail and just had me to where I was like, you know what? I can't take not one more L. My heart can't take one more L. I just can't take another loss. If I do, it's going to take me out, Yahweh, so I'm done. Hands off. You got it. I'm done. So I started telling myself, well, maybe, see, Yahweh just want me for himself. He just don't want me to be with nobody. He just want me for himself. Like it's something to me. Girl, it's just a little stuff. Anyway, that's what I was thinking, though. And I start lying to myself, telling myself that I didn't even want to be in a relationship anymore. And I didn't even realize I was lying to myself. But what I was doing, I would call myself trying to protect myself by saying, I don't even want to be with nobody no more. I just want Yahweh. It ain't for me. It ain't for, I'm good. I don't even want to be with nobody no more. All I want to do is just learn about Yahweh. And that's true. I did want to just learn about Yahweh. But the part that I was deceiving myself with was saying that I didn't want to be with nobody. What I was really saying was I didn't think it was possible. The faith that I thought I had wasn't really what it was supposed to look like. And that was for a purpose, though. It had to be that way. Same thing with Yahshua. Had they known who he was, they wouldn't have crucified him. So had I already known that Yahweh had somebody set up for me, then I wouldn't have been going through all the stuff that I had to go through. So when I did get my husband, I would appreciate him even the more because I know where it came from. So all these things I had to go through, right? Now I'm done. I'm done. I'm super done now. Like I can't, I don't want to look at nobody. I don't want to talk to nobody. Matter of fact, I roll my eyes at somebody cute, tall, play basketball, nice smile, all that. I roll my eye. Now I spit on your shoes. Don't even look at me because now I don't even want it no more. But what Yahweh had to do, he had to change my desires because what I was looking at was physical. And the things that I thought I wanted, I found out I didn't even want. It just like it made me sick to my stomach to even think about it. And so now I was like, okay, y'all, well, you know what? If you got somebody set for me, that's fine. If not, take my sexual desire away because I ain't gonna be out here like that because you ain't make me like that now. I ain't never been out there like that. And so I was thinking, this is what I was thinking. I was thinking that because whenever I would be in a relationship with somebody, like I said, I treat it like it's a marriage. And so in my mind, we're married and don't take a piece of paper to be married. And so, of course, the physical will come into play. And so then I was like, well, y'all, am I doing that right? Am I wrong then? Like, am I supposed to just not have sex till I have a piece of paper marriage? So I was confusing myself. Well, maybe it's because I'm having sex before I get married with a piece of paper. Maybe I'm supposed to have a piece of paper. So then I started asking y'all about that. Start asking Dr. Allen, start asking my daddy different questions. Like, okay, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? Well, what did Dr. Kennedy say about this? What did Dr. Kennedy say about adultery and fornication? Well, what about this? And is this married? Is that just asking? I'm talking about just sit down. Because what I was asking for still was carnal. I wasn't asking at that time when I was trying to find out if I'm supposed to have a piece of paper or not, if it's okay to have. That was still to please my physical desires. It still didn't have nothing to do about pleasing Yahweh. And so I still was getting it wrong, even though I called myself trying to get it right. This is what Yahweh have shown me about it now. I still was getting it wrong by trying to get it right. So it wasn't until after I completely I didn't want none of it. I don't even want it. Whether it's right or wrong, I ain't gonna do it because I don't want to. I don't even want it no more. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to see nobody. I'm done. Yahweh, I just want to focus on you. I just want to learn about you because this is what happened. I shared this earlier. This is what happened. So it was a so-called friend of mine that was a Jehovah's Witness. Now, me and this person, there was nothing physical. We weren't even attracted to each other like that or whatever. We just talked on the phone or whatever. And we would kind of go back and forth. I used to whoop his tail with the letter J. Oh, you can't. But Yahweh would grow me in those things. And I was at a weak moment in my life at that point because I remember going through some things or whatever. And somebody in class that I had met or whatever was called to trying to, talk to me or whatever, that kind of thing. But come to find out he was married. And I was like, what? You trying to take my soul and you know better? And so, of course, I cursed him out left and right or whatever. And I was like, at that point, I was like, you can't even talk to nobody in class, Father. They worse than the ones in the world. What in the world? I'm done. So at that point, I was done. So I found myself venting to my Jehovah's Witness friend. So at that time, and I didn't bring up all the stuff that happened. So you know what this person said? Well, why don't you try Jehovah? I said, what? I know you want to see your mama again. If you just come to Jehovah, you'll be able to see your mama again. You'll be with your mama. And at that point, I stopped because I didn't see the person that was saying it to me. I saw Satan. Satan was after my soul. And so at that point, I said, you know what? I'm going to call you back. I ain't called him back since then. That was some years ago. And after that happened, I said, Yahweh, oh no. So at that point, instead of me trying to learn about Yahweh to tell somebody else about it, I wanted to learn about Yahweh for my own soul. And so when I started seeking Yahweh for my own soul salvation, that's when everything else started. My career took off. My business took off. I got the house I always dreamed about. And then after that, I'm complete. Me and my son, we good. I'm good. Everything's good. So I got ready to go to Las Vegas for a conference. So I was trying to see if we had a class in Las Vegas. Went to YouTube. We didn't have a Las Vegas class, but there was a Las Vegas visitor at the Southfield class. And so I clicked on it to see what Las Vegas was talking about, just in case they was on some bull crap or whatever. I clicked on it. And so they called, the guy's name out or whatever. And I jokingly said, that must be my husband or something. And so they kept on calling other people's name out with his last name. I thought, oh, hell no, he married with a whole bunch of kids. That ain't my husband. And I just kind of, just listened to the, lecture or whatever. And I enjoyed the lecture, but all the whole husband stuff went out my mind anyway, because I'm done. I don't want nobody. That's what I keep telling myself. So long story short, we ended up going to Florida the following month for another conference. Me and my son went at this time. Yep. And so my cousin, the son is Robert, she invited me to go to the Lansing barbecue in July. This is in June. In July, Lansing had a barbecue in July. So I said, yeah, of course, I'll go with you, whatever. Kobe's older, whatever. I ain't got nothing else to do, whatever. I'm single, but I ain't ready to mingle. Let's go. So booked my ticket, booked the hotel, did everything last minute. She couldn't go. I was begging her to go because I didn't get the insurance on my ticket. I was going to lose all my money if I didn't go. But I don't know anybody in the whole state of Michigan, let alone Lansing, Michigan. I can't go by myself. So Charmaine and Trail ended up coming with me at the last minute. So we get there. Right before we got ready to get on the plane, in my mind, I said, y'all, my husband must be in Michigan or something. What you sending me to? Because I know you got everything going on. What you sending me to Michigan for? Now, mind you, what you saying all that for, girl? You said you don't want nobody. What you saying all that for? Anyway, so we get there. Now, we go to Southfield first, Detroit the next day, Lansing on Saturday, and we were supposed to go to Lansing again that Sunday. Well, something happened at the hotel, whatever. We ended up staying in Southfield, and we ended up going to Southfield's class that Sunday morning. Well, Thursday in Southfield, I gave like a brief 5-minute testimony that ended up 15 minutes, but it was 5-minute testimony. And my husband's aunt was in class that particular night. Now that Sunday, my mother-in-law now, she was in class that Sunday, and she normally goes to the Detroit class, but she was in class in Southfield that particular Sunday. And I gave a testimony, and she said that she was just captivated by my testimony. Of course, at the time, we were having the conference calls. And so she got on one of the conference calls we had. In her mind, she was going to hook me up with her son, because that's what she had prayed about, for her son to find somebody. Now, mind you, my husband had gone through some similar things that I had went through in his last 2 relationships too. And he had been married twice before me, but I had never been married with a piece of paper. But he had been married with a piece of paper twice. Anyway, so while she was actually, trying to get him to get on his conference, this was in July, trying to get him to get on our conference call, he had a bad experience with a conference call previously, and he wouldn't get on. He's like, no, mama, I ain't interested. I don't want y'all. I'm good. Leave me alone now. But she kept on pressing him or whatever. He wouldn't get on because she asked me if I mind if she gave her son my number to get the conference call information. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking like, dang, lady, you got the number yourself. Just text, give him the number yourself. But I said, no, ma'am, that's fine. I ain't got no problem with that, because I'm going to shut him down anyway if he on some bull crap. So anyway, so I didn't mind. He never called me. This was July. October 23rd, I still got the text message on my phone of 2017. My husband, which was not my husband at the time, texted me and asked me for the conference call information. And so I gave him the conference call information, whatever. He got me the conference call the following Sunday. And that was when we had like a big, long brawl about, everybody having the Holy Spirit or not, that kind of thing. And so I didn't know where he was in his understanding. So I called him the next day to check on him to see if he was alive, because I didn't know if it hurt him or not. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I've been battling that for a long time anyway, and da-da-da-da-da. So that was it. I'm not interested. He's not interested. That was all we talked about. A couple times later, we talked about different stuff on the conference call before. He sent me some literature about the carnal mind and things like that, because we kind of had a debate at one point, and I was ready to cut his head off because I thought he was saying something else that he wasn't saying, because I was, at that time I would fight like none other, like my mama. I would cut your head off real quick if you say something wrong about the gospel. So anyway, that actually made us talk more, but we still weren't interested in anybody. But we both had agreed and said that, we were done with relationships, things like that. We weren't going to have sex until we were married. If we do ever get in a relationship again, da-da-da-da-da. So we were both on the same page with that. This is October 23rd when we first texted. January the 7th or 8th, I believe it was, of the following year, we had another conversation on the phone, and we talked longer, and we got to know each other more personally. And he was like, oh, I really enjoyed talking to you. Do you mind if I called you again tomorrow? And I said, oh, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. And we've been talking every day since then, but this was January 7th or 8th. The following month in February, he was like, this was random conversation. He said, I don't mean to, scare you off or anything like that, but I think I'm falling in love with you. And so I was like, well, I was feeling the same way, but I just didn't want to say nothing because I didn't know if I had gas or not. I didn't know what this was I was feeling, knowing good and well I was too. Now, we hadn't seen each other in person. We don't know what each other looked like in person. We never met in person, nothing like that. This was just off of us talking on the phone. And it wasn't talking on the phone about, what's going on in the world. We were actually communing in the spirit, and our souls, we fell in love with each other's souls. Our souls had connected and united as one. He had the exact same soul as mine, the same desires, the same love, compassion, everything that I had, he had it also, right? Now, this was in February, January to February. Then another conversation we had in February, he said, look, I don't want to, scare you off. No, I ain't saying right now, but I think I want you to be my wife. And so I'm like, well, I don't know where you think you're going. I've been looking for you all my life. Of course I'm going to be your wife. What you think? What you mean? Of course. And so we had agreed to get married. This was in the first week of February now. All right. So then February 16th, this was about a short time frame. February 16th, he finally came physically to visit and get his taxes done. And so he came, we finally met each other physically for the first time and saw each other, whatever. And then we brought back to my mind what I had said the following year about the video of the guy that I saw in the video in Southfield from Las Vegas. This must be my husband. So I was like, Yahweh, what in the world you got going on? I was just joking when I said that. What in the world, Yahweh, this is too much. I'm nervous, whatever. So then, this was February 16th. So we had agreed to get married, but we were going to wait till the summertime to get married. Now, this is his first time meeting my daddy, meeting my family, people in class. He gave a beautiful testimony in class. All these things are going on. We weren't even on YouTube yet. And so he came back again, I think a few weeks later, whatever. And then he came again in March. And so he wanted to ask my son and my daddy for my hand in marriage. So because we were like, might as well go on just get married now instead of waiting for the summertime. I was like, you sure? You 100% sure? He's like, yeah, I'm sure. You sure? I was like, I'm sure. And so then I was like, well, if you hurt me, Yahweh gonna get you, right? He said, well, if you hurt me, Yahweh gonna get you. I said, as long as Yahweh gonna get you, then we good. Let's go. And so he asked, so we had a dinner that night. We had class at our house that night. Well, my house at the time. And my daddy was there, so he walked my daddy out to ask my dad for my hand in marriage. Now, I'm freaking out because my dad don't even know we dating, because I had just had a conversation with my dad like a couple months ago saying I was done with relationships, I don't want nobody else or whatever. So I was even scared. I don't know why I was scared, but I was scared that my dad even know I was dating him or whatever. So my crazy tale, when my husband went outside to go talk to my dad and ask my hand in marriage, I went in the house. I started hiding behind a doggone couch. Physically hide, I'm talking on my knees, but hiding behind the couch. My daddy outside. You grown, girl, get your tail up. But it was crazy. So then my husband said he told, asked my daddy, saying that, he wanted, have my hand in marriage and things like that. So my daddy said, oh, okay, I think you'll be a great candidate for my daughter. And so my husband's like, okay, well, great, because it's tomorrow. My dad said, well, that's sudden. Tomorrow, dang. Oh, okay. And so now I'm like freaking out, like, dog, my daddy gonna be mad at me. My dad's not gonna let me get married. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Girl, sit down. So we didn't tell anybody else that we were planning on getting married that Friday morning, except my daddy. I just want my daddy to be there. So my daddy the last 10 minutes right before we got ready to get married, because I'm thinking my daddy's not gonna show up. And so he finally showed up. And so we sitting there in the courthouse or whatever, before the judge get up there saying, my daddy, talking to me or whatever. He's like, you sure? I said, Daddy, I understand your resume. I know you feel a certain way or whatever, because I ain't known him very long, whatever. I said, but you said the same thing that Yahweh showed you, that Mama was the one. Yahweh showed me that he's the one for me too. You just gotta, I have faith and confidence in Yahweh. He's the one. So then my daddy asked me, he said, you know how much debt he got? I said, we ain't got that much debt. I did ask him already, but I got more debt than he do. He in trouble. We good. Come on, Judge. Let's do it. So we got married that particular day, March 23rd. October 23rd is when he first texted me. We got married March 23rd, right? I'm not done. So then time went on. We were trying to, get us kids here and things like that or whatever. So the following October 23rd, we were in Las Vegas. That was when we had the court date. Things didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen. And I remember saying that day, well, you know what, if we can't get the kids, well, maybe y'all will give us, allow us to have our own baby, give us our own baby. And mind you, the doctors had already told me that it would be almost impossible for me to have more kids or whatever, 20% chance that I could have another kid or whatever, because I had some things going on with my tube being blocked and things like that or whatever. So I don't even know why I said it. I just said it because it felt right. That's what I was feeling in my heart, whatever. Maybe 3 or 4 days later, we got home. I ended up pregnant, didn't know it. The next month, found out we was pregnant. The baby's due date was due. Our baby was due on the exact same day that I had met his mama the prior year before that. Now, y'all are doing all, I'm talking about y'all put all this together now. Now, from the time we got married up until now, we only been married 2 years. The time we got married up, I think, right there, 2 years, 2 years. From the time we got married up until now, there were a couple of things that came up that kind of like, not detrimental that we supposed to part ways and something like that, but we started learning each other or whatever. And what Yahweh showed us, whenever certain things would come up and it seemed like, a little fight may break out or whatever, we might get a certain way or whatever, Yahweh had to show us, we both realized who it was we were fighting and where the fight was. And so we haven't had any issues at all. What we do is we get each other up. And so when things come up, like if he starts feeling down about something or if he going through something, whatever, then of course you better get up. Yeah, I'll let you stay down there for a little while, but you better get up because you already know where those thoughts are coming from. And we preach to each other. So I preach to him, he get up. He preached to me, I get up. And that's what Yahweh has given us. And it was, when I say everything that I ever wanted in a man, period, things I even were too afraid to ask Yahweh for because I thought it was too carnal for me to ask for these things. Or I thought I would get in trouble and y'all would get mad at me for asking for something like that. Things that I thought it, but I didn't ask it. My husband has it and has displayed it. And he can say, honey, oh, I said, Yahweh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I cried. I'm thankful, but I cried because I felt like I had lost my faith. I have faith about everything else. I believe that he got everything else going on, but I didn't think it was possible for him to give me a mate. And I had to apologize to y'all because I know I'm not worthy. And Yahweh comforted me in that. He said, girl, it had to be that way. So you would know that this comes from me. It's okay. And so from that, our faith was built even stronger now. All things are possible. Not some. All things are possible with Yahweh. Everything, and if you ask anything according to his will, you have to believe and know and trust that he is able to do it, not just with a mate or relationship. This ain't got nothing to do with nothing. The relationship that Yahweh has given me with my husband has nothing to do with nothing. The reality of it is, because ever since he's put us together, we have grown exponentially in our understanding about Yahweh and his purpose and his pattern and his plan. That's why he put us together. not for us to live the rest of our life with this happy marriage and happy life, which we do have, and we're thankful for it. That's just the bonus. That's just the extra. But the reality of it is, he gave us this relationship to learn of him, because what I had to learn before I got to my husband, y'all had to perfect me in that. And some of y'all may go through the same thing. When you are, because this is the game, this is what we play, because we're going to talk about this in a minute. This is the game that sometimes we play sometimes. Now, 1 minute, we want to say, just to be able to have sex, oh, well, I'm married, like we married or whatever. We ain't got no piece of paper. Don't take no piece of paper to get married. Sarah Abraham didn't have no piece of paper. We married, or we married in the spirit. So it's okay for us to have sex. But then you let all these other people in your life and your relationship, whether it's your parents, your family, exes, friends, co-workers, you let all these other people affect what you got going on in your relationship, your so-called marriage, in your relationship. Like, for example, and I know you do it because I've heard it done, I've seen it done before. Well, this particular ex, I'm still cool with my ex, and we talk every now and then. Oh, it ain't nothing going on between us, nothing like that, or whatever. We both have this understanding or whatever. But like we both said that no matter who we go with, who we end up talking to, they just gonna have to understand what we got going on because he was here first, and this is what we got going. Would you really do that in a marriage? Oh no. But if I ever get married, then my ex, you just gonna have to understand. Well, I thought you said you was married. We can't keep playing these games now, because what's gonna happen is this is what happens. For example, if I'm in a relationship and somebody that's not my husband or not my boyfriend asks me to go out to eat with them, and I know good and well I won't want my boyfriend or my husband going out to eat with no woman. But I'm going to go out to eat with him because I know it ain't nothing to it or whatever. It ain't nothing to it. I don't like him. He don't like me. He just trying to be nice about buy me something to eat or whatever. That's y'all were providing a meal for me today, girl, because I sure didn't have no money to buy nothing or whatever. This y'all way of giving me something to eat for today. Playing them type of games. What you're supposed to do is you do all things as unto Yahweh and not as unto man. Now, if you know that you wouldn't want your spouse, your significant other, whoever else, going out to eat with somebody else, talking to their ex, or doing anything else like that, then why would you do it? Oh, well, I don't care if they talk to their ex or not. Sit down. Because what it does is it creates issues. Yahweh says stay away from the very appearance of evil. And if the world, because this is the thing, if me and my husband are together, but I'm talking to my ex, I'm going over their house, I'm doing all kind of other things, right? Anybody else on the outside looking in can look at that. They don't know that me and my ex ain't got nothing going on. They could think that I'm cheating on my husband with my ex. And then I go to that person, try to bring them into class or talk to them about Yahweh. And they, well, how you going to tell me about God or Yahweh or whatever? And you doing all the stuff that you doing. You got somebody, but then you ain't going to make Yahweh look bad. You ain't going to do that. That's not going. So what Yahweh would do, he would cause the thing to come right back and smack you back in your face because you know better. I don't know. Let me come back. Anyway, so Yahweh is the one that brought me and my husband together. Our souls are tied. It is wonderful. I'm so thankful to Yahweh and what he has done with that particular situation. He has caused us to grow exponentially, like I said. He has one gift, and I have the other gift. But when you put both of those gifts together, as far as the gospel is concerned, then Yahweh, we're able to teach about Yahweh, and it's been able to be accepted and received in a way that I could not have done it years ago by myself. And so I see why Yahweh put us together. So it's been beautiful. Anyway, I don't want to take too much time on that. I already have. Sorry about that. But I really have enjoyed everybody's testimonies. We do have a couple of questions, too, before we talk about adultery, fornication. I know we're a little bit over, and so we're going to get a couple things. We may have to have a part 2, though. One of the questions that we had, let me pull the question up real quick for the panel. Let me go to my notes. One of the questions was about how do you know? And this is why I made you kind of expound on what you talked about, Terry. You know how some people say, you know, I knew that this was the one because of this and because of that, you know, physical things, so to speak. How would you know, and this is one of the younger adults asked this question, how would you know if it's the right one or not, if it's your soulmate? How would you know if it's your soulmate? And any one of you from the panel can actually answer this question. Because I know, Terry, you had talked about, you know, that flash you felt before, but you realized that wasn't what it was about. So any one of you guys can answer that question. How do you know? How would you know that it's the one for you? What would you tell this young person that has this question?
Well, let me just mention that that had happened, a similar experience had happened previously, and I thought that was Yahweh telling me that it was a sign from him. And that could have been a disastrous situation. He saved me from that. And so I knew better than to depend upon that when it occurred with Janice. Now, what was it that made us know? I'm not sure I can put my finger on a specific event or instance. It was, it was more or less a mutual realization. There was an actual experience of union of souls. And it wasn't just an experience that occurred in a romantic moment. In fact, we certainly had what people would call romantic times together. It was only for a very short period of time before we got married. And it was after maybe half a year of spending a lot of time together, strictly focusing on the teaching. But when that realization occurred, it was just very, very, very overwhelmingly clear that we were one in Yahshua. Our relationship was first and foremost with Yahshua, and that was the relationship that he was kind of extending between the two of us. And so it was not something I can point to as a specific event, but when he made us realize that, it was almost like when you actually receive a revelation with respect to the teaching. It's not just an aha moment. There's confirmation. It's there constantly also. So I don't have another really good answer for it, because I know people would like to say, well, give me an event so that I could recognize that kind of event in my life and my experience. I don't have a specific answer for that as an event, but there was a realization. So, honey, do you have anything specific that you can contribute that would, okay, yeah, this occurred with us together. It was a very unique thing. I'm going to make one quick comment too. I didn't know this until after we were married, but I want to express this to people that may not be currently married. Sexual faithfulness, fidelity, is important to people in their marriage. We realized after we got married that the fact that we had grown to the point to where we were unwilling to have sex with each other before marriage because of our respect for Yahshua. Not, not for some prudish reason, but it was because of our respect for Yahshua and his will. That is something that has made it so that we clearly can trust each other. And so you think about that with respect to your relationship. If you're ever worried about, hey, is my spouse going to be unfaithful with somebody else? Well, hey, they were not unfaithful even, or they were not even willing to be sexually unfaithful to their commitment to Yahshua, even with us, and he put us together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's said very well, but anyway. Okay.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Mike and I experienced the same thing as far as that was a good, good explanation, I think, as far as like kind of like a revelation, as not like with the gospel. It's the same kind of feeling though. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I can't put it in words either though. And I think the reason why it's hard to put in words because it doesn't happen. It happens in the spirit, and sometimes you can't even bring these things down enough to even make the words don't do it justice to explain it. It's just something that you have to experience. But
yes,
to try to help answer that question, you like, just like he said, my sheep hear my voice. You just kind of know it. I think you just kind of know it. I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear from me, but does anybody else have anything on that particular question?
Well, you start out like you have a feeling about the individual that you're interested in, and that's how it started out. But what it's going to take is an experience. You have to have an experience with them to know whether or not they love you. You're not going to be able to detect that right off the bat. I think Whitney Houston made a song about that, How Will I Know?
Mm-hmm.
They love me. So you have to go through life's experiences, and that way you can tell whether or not they love you or not, because sometimes when you can put up with another person's flaws and you're not critical of it, but you accept it, that's a good sign, because you realize you yourself have flaws, and so you're able to accept one another with all the flaws and all of that. That's a good sign. So as you grow together, then your love grow for one another. If that's the case, then your love will grow for one another. You have to have a long life together. But as far as somebody talking about they know right out the bat, if they have a feeling right out the bat that that's how it's going to be, it starts out that way, and hopefully it expands and gets better. But nevertheless, as Paul said, either way you're going to have trouble in the flesh. And so you have to fight through those tough times. And that's where your love is really put to the test. When you go through those hard times, those tough times, if you're still able to hang in there together and still show love for one another, then that's a good sign that you got a marriage that's going to last.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of it, it is Yahweh that keep us together. Again, I go back to what I said earlier. All of our marriages, talking about the sons, were made in heaven. Yahweh chose our mate for us before we knew anything about it. And so when it comes down to it, he's the one that reveals to you or lets you know whether or not this person is for you or not. You have that feeling within yourself. He lets you know that. Because something going to happen to cut you loose from it if that's not the one, as he did with me. And others that I have talked to in the same situation. If you belong to Yahweh, if you're his offspring, he chose your wife or your partner for you long before you come on the scene. And so, and if he chose them for you, then that's going to work out. And so you go through the experiences of life, and then you're able to learn one another, you see, and to know that, like I said, it's you against the world. Once you come to understand what this gospel is about, then you fight together against the adversaries that come in and try to divide you or to break you up. You have an understanding of that process, and so you fight together against those things, and you help one another. You see one down, just like I said, if you're going through an argument or something, somebody got to take low. And so you take low, whatever, and let that thing cool down, and then Yahweh will bring back to that individual mind and let them know, look, you was wrong about that. And if they got anything real in them, they'll come back and apologize and, look, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. That's how you're able to see the love expanding and sprouting and growing when you're able to do those things.
Right.
I would say also that it matters in the relationship, as Carla, as you were saying before, with the previous relationships, it was more about an infatuation of what you were looking at and what you were looking for in a person. And it really takes you knowing someone, I guess what you would say, and conversation or in patience with them, and knowing whether or not they can, they have the things that are bringing to the table, what they're bringing to the table to contribute to the relationship. And if they don't have that ability to show themselves, or be exposed for who they are and what they're about, then it's a flag that you have to if you want to work through it, open it up and talk about those things and find out just what's real and what's not, because you really everybody has to bring something to the table. One thing that for Shirley and I that made us understand more that it wasn't so much about us, is that we had to see that that the things that we had to be open to one another. We had to really accept the fact, as Carl just said, that you have to take low in certain situations, and you just can't be all about you and what you think. You have to see that if you're going to have a relationship, it's a two-way street. You're not right about everything. It's not everything that you say is what makes it. So, but you find out whether it's infatuation or whether it's genuine by going through the experiences, by knowing one another.
Right. That made me think. Right. That made me think about what my mother-in-law said earlier today. But even with that, like when Moses went out there to Midian and they saw him, they thought he was an Egyptian first because of the physical, because what he looked like on the outside. He had those Egyptian clothes on.
Right.
But it wasn't until they actually broke bread with him and had a conversation with him, they realized he was a Hebrew. And so the same thing, like with do you know that you can actually be with somebody for years and not know who they are? Indeed. You can be with somebody for 2 days and find out everything about them, because it's something called open. When you open up to somebody, it's not a physical opener. What you mean you open up to somebody? When you let somebody in, my husband and I had no fear. And the reason why we had no fear when we first started talking or whatever, because we had no expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Our hands were not on it. We weren't trying to make something out of something. We weren't trying to do it ourselves. We weren't looking for anything or anybody. We were looking at Yahweh. Michael and Gabriel was looking at Yahweh. They weren't looking at each other. They were looking at Yahweh. And because we were looking at Yahweh, we were able to open up and see him, not just abstract we saw him in each other. And that's what the attraction was. That's how we fell in love with each other so fast. I mean, it was like, and it feels like we loved each other forever. Like we never were apart ever. And it made all the pain, all the suffering, all the confusion that I've ever went through, I would do it again 10 times if I know the outcome is going to be this. And it's not putting him on a pedestal saying that, it's Yahweh. It's the spirit that is in him that I'm so in love with and would lay down my life for. And we do all day, every day. And so it's beautiful to me. But back to what I was saying about with Moses and things like that. And what you were talking about there, David. Like, so when you're dealing with people and you're not sure what you got to go through those different experiences and things like that. What my mother-in-law said earlier, she was talking about with Solomon, King Solomon there, how wisdom has to kick in. But you have to know something about Yahweh and his purpose for wisdom to even kick in. But when you had those two women there and you had that one baby that was alive, and you had both of them saying this is my child, this is my child. No, this is my child, this ain't hers, this is my child. Stop what my mother-in-law said earlier. She said, when Solomon said, okay, well, I'm going to take the child and split it in half, and you have one and you have the other. She said, lust was okay with that. Lust said, okay, split the baby in half. But love said, no. Let her have the baby. I'm going to take the low road. I'm going to let her have it because I love the child so much. I don't want to see this child, destroyed. I would much rather give the child up so it can live. And so Solomon said, oh, truly, this is the mother of this child because she loves. So lust ain't going to stick around too long. Lust is only whatever you can do for me, what I can get out of it. That's what lust does. That's not what love does. But love endures all things. It bears all things. Love sacrifices things. And so that's how you'll know whether somebody loves you or not. And again, if you don't love yourself, how can you expect somebody else to love you? Like Joseph said, you have to know that all the love that you will ever need is right there in you first. Because Yahweh said, I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion and whom I will harden. So if anybody is loving you, that's Yahweh loving you through those vessels. But at first, that's to start with their own vessel. You have to love you first. Get in these relationships and let people just make you feel like I'm just not. Maybe I'm not pretty enough, or maybe I'm not this, or maybe I don't dress better than. Maybe it's because of this. Maybe he don't want me because of this. Then them demons make you feel like that. Yahweh made you exactly the way you were supposed to be made. And if you don't know anything else, you better know that Yahweh loves you so much so that he gave you his name. He gave you his gospel. He gave you his Messiah. And so when you receive that love, that's all the love you will ever need. And yes, he's able to display it physically so and give you a mate. But it's not until you actually learn that love first that you can actually even accept love coming from anywhere else. I'm done with that. Anybody else got anything on that? Question?
The main thing, Carla, that Yahweh showed me about it to make it simple and you hit it right on the head is that when you committed to Yahweh for you, whether or not he's going to give you a mate or not, you have to not touch it. He won't even allow you to put your thoughts on it. He just takes control of the situation. And I know that that's possible if you know Yahweh because he did it for me when I didn't even know him. I was still very new in the gospel. Like I said, 6 months after I was introduced to it, we got married. And I looked back on it afterward and saw how Yahweh worked that thing because if it hadn't been me, I would have questioned this, I would have questioned that, I would question, wait a minute, no, wait, what about this? What about that? Oh, he got children. And then, he got 3 children. He's a dog. He was a dog or whatever. Or what about all the debt he's in? He gave me so many questions that I would have asked to hinder that if it was me. But he didn't even allow me to get in the way. He just took control of the situation. And that's how, if you already know how he works, then you can just sit back, committed to him and sit back and don't put your thoughts on it. Don't touch it. And you testified to that. As a matter of fact, everybody testified tonight that they really didn't have anything to do with it as far as Yahweh bringing them together.
Right.
Just get out of the way. Committed to him and get out of the way.
Right.
And you'll know.
Very true.
Right.
That's right. Very, very true. Anybody else on that question? We're going to conclude. We're going to have a part 2 because we have some more questions, but we way over time. And we want to break down the 7th chapter of 1 Corinthians and then get into really what adultery and fornication is and what the founder taught on it, what it really is. Because some people have this in their mind that because Joshua fulfilled the carnal ordinances and things like that, the law is out. And so now it's not about committing adultery physically, so it's about committing adultery spiritually. So if you're married to sleep with somebody else's, sleep with somebody else while you're married or sleep with somebody else's husband, whatever, that's physical adultery. That don't count. That's not the problem. The problem is spirit. You have all these things in their minds, whatever, and we want to kind of get rid of all of that and make it clear to everybody understand what adultery means, what it is, what fornication is, and all those things like that. So we'll do a part 2 of this next Sunday if everybody's available. Next Sunday to continue, because we do have some more questions, and I'll send the questions out to the panel so you guys have more time to answer the questions. But does anybody have anything else on this question that was just asked? Like, how do you know when it's the right one? All right. Okay. All right. Well, I really do appreciate everybody's testimonies tonight. It's been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I did not mean for us to go over this late. I knew it was going to take a little longer, but I didn't realize it was going to take us this long. But I really enjoyed all of it. Everybody else did too. We got a lot of comments on YouTube, how much everybody enjoyed. I got a million text messages. So I appreciate the testimonies. Yahweh gave you the testimonies for a reason, to be able to share and encourage the brethren. So we'll have a part 2. And if you have any questions that you want to ask or whatever, you can please email us. I'm going to get to the right screen. Hold on just a second so you can have an email address. So you can email the questions to idmrmeridianms@gmail.com. idmrmeridianms@gmail.com. Don't forget the MS at the end of Meridian. You can ask your questions. Also, announcements, we do have the basics and foundation class starting tomorrow, 7 p.m. Look, let me tell y'all something. Even though I know it sounds like something simple because it's, basics and foundation, Yahweh has been really elevating. Tomorrow is going to be such a phenomenal class. I'm so excited about it with all of the things that you guys are going to share tomorrow. That starts at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Wednesdays, we have the Dr. Kimmy transcript readings starting at 1 p.m. Central Time. Friday, we have the Meridian has our class that we stream live on YouTube starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. Every other Sunday, we have the youth session starting at 3 p.m. Central Time. And then, of course, we'll have a part 2 to the couples and relationships, adultery and fornication, possibly next Sunday. I'm going to get with the panel and see what's a good day for everybody. And then I'll let everybody else know moving forward. If you want to listen to any of the previously recorded conference calls that we've had, we have over 116 of them. This is the number to call here, the 712-770-4709 number. 676123 is the access code. These are the different topics that we've had. That's 1 through 50. You can pause your screen if you need to. This is 51 through 107. Pause the screen if you need to. And then this is 108 through 116. A lot of really good topics. These reference numbers will be what you would put in if you want to listen to a particular topic. If nothing else, we will conclude with the doxology, taken from the last two verses of the book of Jude. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy, to the only wise Elohim, our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah, our Sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and ever. Let everyone say hallelujah.
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 Hallelujah.